man alive.
Man.
I could not believe it because
the whole carry on.
The way it kind of happened, because it was that whole thing as I wasn't sure if they were even going to show the landing, because previous SpaceX launch landings had been maybe 30 minutes, an hour later. They then released a video of this thing like trying to land on a barge and not managing it.
And usually you don't even get like any kind of update until about then. Like
so you don't know.
You're just hearing mission control talking about the actual like payload delivery into orbit, and half an hour later there's a tweet goes up saying, "Oh, landing attempt failed" or something. Yeah. And that's it. Whereas this, they fucking went to town with their coverage.
Yeah, and the coverage was really great. Yeah. But I just wasn't expecting. So I was just there, kind of like, are they going to show it? Oh my god, they're showing it. Oh my god, it's landing. It's landing. Is it landed? Is it steady? And then kind of it was steady.
But my stream froze literally maybe 30 seconds before the landing. And you know that little like they have that again part of their really great cover. Like it's so good. They really show like have you watched NASA streams and stuff? They're shit now.
Yeah, they are.
And like the ones the Soyuz launches, they're shit. This is how to do live launch streams.
Yeah, it was very good.
The little like graphic at the bottom, it's like runs along the bottom of the screen and shows all the major events, like before, like fueling and all that stuff before liftoff, and then the launch, and then the max Q and all these different bits. And I was like watching that. It was approaching the experimental landing bit. And like suddenly it all went down, and I was opening all these other tabs and like trying the YouTube stream and trying the one linked from Spaceflight Now and all this other stuff, and I knew by that point that more than 30 seconds had gone by, and I was like, that's it, I've missed whatever's happened, I've missed it. And then the video. So
when it came back
again.
up, was it literally just?
It was, that shot. It was like, so I watched it again, obviously multiple times. Yeah. But like, it comes down like, and it's all it's so bright you can't really see what's going on, and then
close-ups. Or...
There's a close-up, and you see it stood there.
That was the bit you turned.
That was the bit that it came back to.
So lucky.
It was insane, and I still didn't really quite believe what was going on. Yeah. So like. It cut immediately from that to like the mission control going absolutely apeshit, like jumping up and down, screaming, like cheering, hugging each other, and I was just like, I just lost my mind.
Yeah, I like the way they did like a little tour around some of the SpaceX stuff with that guy from Wait But Why.
Yeah, he did well.
There.
He did well. Yeah. It was really funny because
he looked kind of like his face was so funny when he was sort of walking around. Not when he was walking around, but when he was kind of like stood there with the other two, and he's kind of like like a little child, just loving it. But I would be like that, so fair play.
I mean, apparently he was just asked if he could be there to like say stuff, and that's it. Like he's like, why am I here? I'm not part of SpaceX. Like, who am I? Like. He put up like a little post before the thing, and he was saying basically like apparently I'm just meant to turn up and say things out of my face, and people were going to listen. Like what who am I? What? So that was quite funny, and he looked pretty awkward stood there. But fair play, he did a good job.
I thought it was great.
The whole thing was great. Really,
it was kind of like
good.
A celebration of this new kind of space race in a way. Yeah. Although one person who wasn't celebrating particularly, seemingly. Although you could take it on the outside as being a celebration, was Jeff Bezos.
Yeah.
But his tweet was a little bit odd to me.
Yeah, I find it strange. I did find it strange.
So
what exactly did he say?
I wrote the tweet down.
This is just after the landing.
He said, "Congrats SpaceX on landing Falcon's suborbital booster." Mm-hmm. Obviously putting that in. Welcome to the club.
Welcome to the club.
So welcome to the club, and the fact that he uses the word suborbital.
Cheeky.
Because what he's obviously there's people have written about this, and it's saying it's kind of an underhanded. It's not really a compliment.
No, it's meant to be like we were there first, definitely.
Yeah, it's a swipe. I just think it was a bit unnecessary.
It was a bit unnecessary, and I mean nobody is suggesting that what Blue Origin have done and what SpaceX are doing is in any way really comparable. Like everybody knows what the reality of the situation. It's not like anyone's fooled by it.
No,
it's a bit bizarre.
It was just kind of like what I know.
Not to put Blue Origin down, because what they did was cool. Like,
it's
seriously cool, and we'll probably talk about it a bit later.
No, it's great.
Shit.
And I spend a lot of money on Amazon, so I feel like I've contributed.
Fair play. And I'm going to be right up in one of those things when we can be paying customers.
Yeah, I don't want to slag him off because he might just say you can't come on my badass.
But it was odd. Like the suborbital bit was like a reference to that little like Twitter kind of beef that him and Elon had after the Blue Origin one. Yeah. Whereas Elon was like pointing out, it's suborbital and all this stuff, and he's like, so is yours is suborbital, and it all got a bit like a bit weird.
It's good to have a competition, but in a way, it's kind of like it's just well, to us anyway, it's just so cool that this is all happening. That there's just this new space race on. Can't believe our luck, and they're already sort of like catfighting a bit. Maybe that's funny actually. Maybe I quite like it.
Yeah, I think there's a funny side to it for sure.
But he could have been a little bit more gentlemanly about it.
Yeah, I like how Elon didn't
cover
reply, so that's good.
Yeah,
as he did to the previous stuff.
I don't think he really covered himself in glory there.
No,
it would have been just a proper thing to do. Say congratulations, SpaceX. Just gritted your teeth and got on with it.
Yeah.
But then again, I mean, Elon didn't do that either. Like when Blue Origin landed, he said congratulations, but then just put out a load of stuff about like, oh yeah, but it's not the same or whatever. As if, like,
he did say that.
So maybe
just to point out, blah blah blah. Yeah.
Yeah. And maybe he didn't need to do that. I'm not sure.
No.
But I know we all know the difference.
Yeah, we do. Yeah. Certainly, what SpaceX are doing is, they're actually putting proper payloads into orbit. They're with paying customers. They're going to be taking crew into orbit next year.
Into orbit as well. Yeah, that's the key word.
Yeah,
there.
into orbit. Like it's very different. It's different. We talked about this in our previous video. But yeah. So,
if we think about, this is now a thing.
Yeah.
That rockets going into orbit can land.
Yep.
And
done.
And not only are they going to orbit, obviously ones that just pop up as well, the Blue Origin one.
Mm-hmm.
So this is like a thing now in the space industry.
Yeah.
And I was kind of thinking about how long has this like space race been going on, since the 60s or whatever. The rise of all these kind of new companies has achieved so much more than was ever possible in years and years of programs by the governments.
It's unbelievable, really.
And
although the sort of the late 50s to late 60s aside, because that was a bit of an exceptional time where shitloads of the US federal budget and shitloads of Russian money was spent on just doing that.
Yeah.
And they managed to get pretty far in 10 years.
Yeah.
But certainly since then, government agencies have just been peddling the sort of same stuff for decades.
Yeah, exactly. They just the space shuttle was something different. But
it was
a mess.
It wasn't the best suited vehicle for the job. Really, it was a fucking cool looking thing.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. But it wasn't. It had its problems, and it was the same for a long time. It didn't advance much. Once it was brought into circulation, that was that.
And you think about government space programs, government led space programs that aren't like frontier research kind of Curiosity rover style things.
Yeah.
Are dead.
I reckon, yeah.
Like the Russians are never going to keep up with these new developments. Not currently what they've got. To be honest, it's not only the government programs that are dead. I can't see ULA coming out of this well.
Oh yeah, like some of the old sort of dinosaur launch companies, like Boeing, Lockheed, like ULA, and
because they
even like some of the others, like Arianespace and people like that. Like
think that. They've got the Vulcan rocket planned, okay? That thing's not even got all it's not even like guaranteed to follow through with all its funding and everything. Yeah. It's not even like a guaranteed thing. And SpaceX have already landed the Falcon 9.
Yeah.
And are starting to, refuel it and try again or whatever.
Yeah, the reusable concept of this Vulcan rocket, which is ULA's like future rocket, is crazy. It's got all these like different components, like the engines come out and they like parachute down, the helicopter catches it in midair and all this crazy shit.
And the main rocket body itself gets destroyed, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The tank.
Yeah, so I don't see how it could ever be as cheap as a fully reusable first stage rocket. No. I know that the economics behind reusable rockets are really complicated, and it depends on like how much it costs to refurbish them and like how long they're on the ground and all this shit and other stuff. Yeah. And like ULA obviously think that what SpaceX is doing is unnecessary, like an unnecessary complication to something that you could make it less complex and thereby
save money
on the long run, more economical. I don't know.
Yeah,
but surely SpaceX is only going to get better and better at landing first stage, parts of their boosters. So
just any part of their rocket.
Yeah, so if you're not landing the whole rocket and reusing the whole rocket, then you're always going to be one step behind them.
Yeah, you'd think so. It just seems to me that they haven't got any plans now in the future that are going to be able to keep up with SpaceX. We definitely don't want SpaceX to be like a monopoly on it.
No,
because that's always bad.
Yeah, and I don't think they want that. They want money, obviously, but their express goal isn't to be like the world dominating launch provider. They want to get to Mars.
Yeah,
that's what they want to do.
Yeah. So you can't help but fear for some parts of ULA because they've lost contracts to SpaceX. They're clearly falling behind on the price point. They're way behind on the price point anyway.
Yeah.
And now SpaceX is going to have a reusable rocket that's, going to reduce it. Once they start getting good at these things, it's orders of magnitude reduction in cost.
Yeah. And ULA have had to back out of the defense, military satellites launches, which is like a huge win for SpaceX.
Yeah.
Not that they even needed it because they probably would have won that anyway, the bidding.
Yeah.
So
it's looking a bit bleak.
It does look pretty bad. They're gonna have to. You'll probably see them go through some like big reforms and shit, and try to like piece it together and I don't know.
Yeah. I imagine they'll downsize or something, or I don't know, but it's not.
I mean, they're still a big company, still like a huge amount of launches in there.
Yeah, and huge amount of talent there.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like they're running out of launch. They've got like a fucking like queue of launches to do, like 10 miles long or something. But
I mean, that's gonna. SpaceX is just going to get all the new buys.
You would assume so.
If they're going to be, I mean, people are already queuing up to get on the next, the reuse of that.
They are,
rocket,
which is
booster.
sick. Although they're not going to relaunch that one, apparently.
Is that true?
Yeah. Elon said.
I didn't know that.
Elon said quite soon after the landing, actually, that they're going to keep this one on the ground.
Oh.
Because it's the first. And it's symbolic, they'll probably.
Oh, really? So it's like a trophy rocket.
Yeah. They're going to run through all the tech. They're going to check it all out. They're going to static fire it on the ground to prove that it would fly. So like basically, stick up to full thrust or whatever.
Yeah, it blows up.
Shit.
That
would be tragic. Can you imagine?
I'd be alright. I didn't know
and
that.
And they keep it on the ground. Yeah, it's a bit disappointing actually, but I mean, I can sort of. Whatever.
When's the next launch?
Like fucking next Sunday or something. No, not this. Yeah, so like Sunday the 17th, I think, is the next one. And they're going to try and... They're basically... So I've been doing a lot of reading about this because they fucking geek out hard over it. They basically... Now with this new upgraded Falcon 9, the full thrust Falcon 9, whatever it's called.
Which, by the way, before you tell me, looked hench.
Yeah.
It was like... Because they were... it was glowed like super bright and stuff. Like way more... When it was landing, I couldn't see anything. And when it was taking off, I couldn't either. I thought it was going to blow up when it was going off.
Your face on that reaction video.
because there was so much like sublimation and so much fire. I guess that's from the fact that it's much colder.
Yeah. And
so there's way more steam and sublimation coming
I guess so.
And the rocket flame is bigger because it's
higher
more powerful.
Thrust, yeah. I mean, might have been just because it was at night that it's brighter and you see more of the sublimation and shit. But I mean, it looked like it was when it was on the launch pad before launching. It was just so much like gas coming off of it, venting like.
Yeah, it was so cool.
Imagine climbing into that as an astronaut. Fucking hell.
It's scary. It'd be fine.
But
I'm sorry, you were saying.
So apparently with these full thrust ones, is that even on like the really high like geosynchronous transfer orbit things, they will be able to attempt landings. They'll actually be able to land. All of the Falcon 9 launches from now on are going to be able to have landing attempts. So they're just going to end up with like a massive pile of like boosters that they need
just old boosters.
Yeah. So yeah. I mean, I reckon we'll be seeing some reused launches maybe this year.
You'd think this year. So how much is it going to cost to get one of those like back up? Like how much are people going to pay?
Do you mean like the first, like sort of like the first time they reuse it or something, or like?
Yeah, the first time. Is there any monies on that?
I don't think anyone really knows. No. SpaceX themselves probably don't even know until they've like presumably checked out exactly what's happened to the booster and like all that shit. They don't know like how much work they're gonna have to do and to refurbish it and stuff. So
yeah, you presume they're going to give someone a knockdown kind of fee.
Yeah.
Like the first time.
I think the is it CES or something? The company that they're going to be launching in like a couple of weeks' time.
CES.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Don't know what that stands for. It's a satellite company. Yeah. They have already come out and said like, oh yeah, we'll take it. We'll take that hit and have the first refurbished Falcon 9 booster. So that would be cool. If I mean any reduction in price is going to be like a big deal. Well,
so I mean they'll cut that down. They did say, SpaceX said at one point that they thought it would get down to, once they've got these things like regularly going up and they know how much how to refurbish, it's going to be down to like 5 or 7 million per launch.
Fuck.
Which is, what's it now, like 60?
50 to 60 I think.
So that's an order of magnitude less.
That's crazy.
So but I mean, we talked about ULA, but obviously there's no one who can really compete with that price. on the radar even.
I mean, yeah, certainly none of like the established like big name launch providers like Arianespace and who else, like Orbital ATK,
the Proton people,
ILS and they're all launching old rockets basically that are really like good and reliable and stuff, but just like they're just build a new one every time.
Exactly.
There's no reusability.
So presumably the next kind of competitors to SpaceX are going to be either, unless these companies can sort themselves out and quickly get up to speed with SpaceX. It might even be things like space planes. Like it might be decades away that someone's able to catch up to that level and have something, because it's taken. No, it won't be decades away. Well, it might be decades away because
for space planes and stuff, it may well.
It will be. I mean, just to catch up with SpaceX.
Yeah, I mean, SpaceX have done it fast, but they are quite remarkable in that sense.
That's what I mean, though. So who's going to catch them up in the next 10 years? Doesn't look like anyone.
10 years, yeah. I mean, possibly nobody.
And they're going to keep going as well.
Yeah, in 10 years' time, I mean, if Elon has his way, they'll be on the surface of Mars in 10 years.
Yeah.
We'll see about that. But
see about that, Elon.
I'm up for it. But you never know. So. Yeah, I mean, certainly for the next few years, I can't see anyone catching them.
No,
they're just going to keep accelerating. You'd imagine.
So maybe it won't be until I'm not even sure the space planes will be cheaper necessarily. I mean, people have talked about the economics of these things, and some people saying that having air breathing stages doesn't help. It doesn't really reduce the cost if you can land the rockets.
That's what I think. That's what Elon says.
Yeah, or has said.
Yeah, maybe because he's not building space planes. I don't know.
That's true.
I don't know enough about the economics of these things at all to like be able to comment on it. And
I think not many people do know much about the economics of a space plane because there's not even one in existence. There's only a few plans from a few companies.
And the thing about these rockets is that they're much more flexible in terms of like how fast they can get, like where you can put payloads. Space planes are going to be. You're never going to be able to get a space plane to like fly to the moon or like
no.
or even
just low satellite delivery. Though.
Yeah.
Well,
so you're still going to need. So SpaceX, in that sense, they're not going to be competing with SpaceX for like putting payloads to like the L1 point or beyond, to the moon and Mars or whatever. Like, so they seem to be head and shoulders at the moment. At least heading that way.
Yeah,
it's still early days, of course, but
So what's next for SpaceX then?
Well,
there are front runners at the moment.
They're
going to sort out that. Obviously, they're going to try and launch another booster, right? Presumably this year.
Like reuse one.
Sorry, reuse a booster.
Yeah, hopefully.
And then there's the Falcon Heavy, of course, is this year. So that's going to be awesome.
That's going to be wicked.
If they, do you know if they're going to try and land that first time?
I don't know. I fucking hope so. Because if they do, that's three booster landings. One triple whammy.
Yeah.
Possibly one at sea.
Oh, man, that's going to be ridiculous.
So you're going to get two landing on land, like the ones we saw before, and then the middle one's going to be like moving too fast, so it'll end up landing on a barge in the sea. That's going to be wicked.
Which they still haven't done, actually. That's another thing they need to try and tick off the list, is manage to land something at sea.
I mean, we wouldn't get the same kind of coverage because you can't really put cameras right next to it and stuff, but it's going to be badass to watch.
Just quickly before we go off this topic, landing at sea, I did not understand at all how they flipped that thing back round and landed it back where it started out. That made no sense to me whatsoever. Until I sort of like watched some videos and tried to like understand it.
Yeah, I know. I spent ages.
I thought in my head I was like, what? So what do? They just like turn the rocket round. I thought they'd flip it round.
Yeah.
And then start burning the opposite direction.
Like literally, like have to basically
against the trajectory of the orbit
and then
previous orbit.
Yeah.
And then just reverse and then just drop back down. But obviously that's not what they do.
No.
They just basically do like a sort of somersault almost.
Yeah, it's like almost like a loop-the-loop kind of thing. Like
so fucking cool.
I'd love to just watch that in its entirety. I don't know how you do that. Some kind of like high altitude plane like filming it or something. I'd love to see that.
Yeah, I think it'd be very hard to see.
Imagine watching it with the Falcon Heavy with the two of them doing it, like flipping back the two side boosters, flipping back to launch base.
Yeah, that would be wicked. Side. When three of them land, that's gonna be hardcore.
Yeah.
So we'll no doubt do a reaction and talk about that a bit more.
Yeah. For sure.
And then there's the Mars transporter this year as well.
Well, the announcement of it is potentially going to be early this year, like
maybe soon.
Which
potentially will take huge advantage of these reusable rockets.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it a bit more in a second, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's also the Crew Dragon, which is like the Dragon 2, like the updated new more badass version of the
one that can propulsively land.
Yeah.
It's Dragon.
So that's going to be doing demo flights this year, I think, and possibly even like an in-flight abort test.
Oh yeah.
That might be 2017. I can't remember.
It's definitely on the cards, that thing.
It's soon. It's coming. Well,
Okay,
I mean,
but
they're going to be
do
launching
that.
astronauts in 2017.
They've got to do it before that, so it probably is this year.
Man, the first astronauts that get on a Falcon 9 is going to be insane, isn't it?
Look, there's like photos and videos.
Yeah.
Of ask me that in a second.
Okay.
I don't know what you're going to ask me. Of the inside of the Dragon capsule.
Yeah.
And it looks like cushy as shit. It's like loads of space. There's like this way the seats are racked up. They've got like amazing like touch screens in front of them. But presumably when that's full of cargo, it's going to be pretty crammed.
You'd assume so. You'd assume it would look maybe not quite as crammed as the Soyuz, which is insane.
I don't think that's possible to be more crammed than that.
Anyway,
only way you can be more crammed than that is to be like a lead atom in a block of lead.
But yeah, you'd imagine that they'd pack it full of stuff because you're not going to waste a trip up to the ISS or whatever.
But when it's empty, it just looks like a lounge. It looks well cushy.
It's amazing. It kind of reminds me of Contact.
Oh yeah, the thing
in Contact that she goes in, because it's all like sort of a little bit futuristic. It looks basically exactly how you would want a spacecraft to look. Yeah. In the 21st century, like no more fucking about with like old school green paint. And
the Russian green paint.
And like little switches and stuff. Like it's all glass controls and touch screens and
big windows.
Like floating seats that are like in the middle of an amazing spacious kind of it's wicked.
Yeah, the whole control panel thing compared to the Soyuz, which is like. They've got those stupid pointy, like wands, the dialing wands from The Simpsons sort of thing.
Because they're sort of like frogged into these little seats, like, and I can't really move.
Yeah, it's going to be good.
Yeah.
It's going to be much better. So what are you going to ask me?
I was going to ask you, I think I was going to ask you something like, how scary would you find it? Or would you find it, because we were talking about, we were talking about the other day or the other week, talking about how scary it would be to get in a Soyuz, despite its safety record. It just seems scary. Yeah. Like, would you trust the Falcon 9 more or less? Like, intuitively. I mean, obviously, if you look at the stats, the Falcon 9 has a worse record just because it's been around for less time. There's something about it which is so, like, shiny and modern.
That it seems safer.
Yeah.
Would I trust? No, I wouldn't. I don't think. I think my brain would take over and say it would tell me it's not the safer one necessarily. I don't know enough about it. I think the Soyuz would feel safer in that sense, but it looks like a piece of shit. So maybe when you got there, you'd sort of regret your decision. You'd be like, hold on a minute, this looks like.
I want to go in that thing.
And you're in the middle of like the Kazakhstani kind of steppe, and it's kind of a bit like crappy and rusty, and it's like, can we just go back to Cape Canaveral? I want to bail on this whole thing. We'll get to a point though, obviously, where it's got to be safer in the long run. I mean, it's got for the crew to escape, it's got more options than the Soyuz. So in the long term, yes, would it feel safer? It probably would feel safer, but I don't think it logically is safer yet. I mean, I thought that the Falcon 9s were just all going to go up and it was going to be fine, and then one of them blew up, and I was like, maybe not. But they said they would have been able to escape that fine. Yeah. That's what SpaceX said. Yeah. Which
would be wicked. I mean, it'd be cool. You'd expect that like this abort thing would just like come off the end of the rocket if it starts blowing up, and then just like propulsively land, and then like the next day just get loaded onto another rocket and off it goes again.
Yeah.
Maybe not quite the next day.
Probably not. It's been ages trying to work out what went wrong. Yeah. It'd be grounded for years.